Okay, so you've probably heard all the chatter, right? Seen the headlines, maybe. Stuff about the U.S. dollar, maybe crashing.
Mm-hmm. Or foreign governments ditching it, selling off mountains of U.S. Treasury bonds.
Exactly. It sounds like this, huge global shift is happening.
Well, and here's the interesting part. According to the material we're looking at today, that whole narrative, it might be pretty misleading.
Misleading how?
This source basically argues that hardly anyone really gets what a reserve currency actually is or how the global money system really functions.
Okay, so that's our job for this deep dive then.
Yeah.
Based just on this source material, let's try and lift the veil. What is the real reserve currency? How does it work?
And crucially, why understanding that changes how we should read those headlines about, say, China or Japan selling U.S. bonds.
Right. It sounds like moving from the shadows on the wall, like Plato's cave.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Into the full light of truth, as the source might put it. It argues the world doesn't really run on the U.S. dollar people think of.
Not the dollar in my wallet.
No, it runs on something else called the Eurodollar. And according to this material, there's a world of difference.
Eurodollar. Okay, let's unpack that straight away. If it's not physical cash, what is it?
So the key idea from this source is the Eurodollar system is the actual reserve currency, and it's fundamentally different. It's basically ledger money.
Ledger money, like digital entries.
Exactly. Balances, credits on bank computer screens, mostly outside the U.S. Milton Friedman's quoted in the source pointing out that these Eurodollar banks hold almost no, negligible literal cash. It's all digital entries zipping between banks globally.
Okay, so forget stacks of bills. It's all about balances moving around electronically. Why is that system the reserve currency then? What does it do?
Its core job, according to this source, is being an intermediate currency.
An intermediate currency.
Yeah.
What does that mean in practice for, regular people or businesses?
Well, the source uses a pretty good analogy. Imagine like a Swedish company selling furniture to Japan.
Okay, like IKEA.
Yeah, sure. So the Japanese buyers have yen, but the Swedish sellers need kroner. Trying to directly swap yen for kroner for every single sale. That would be really difficult, cumbersome, and costly, as the source puts it.
Makes sense. Different banking systems, different rules.
Totally. But if there's one common currency available in Japan and also useful or easily exchangeable in Sweden, that acts as the go-between.
The intermediate currency.
Exactly. It makes global trade seamless and highly efficient. The source argues the Eurodollar is that vehicle currency. It stands between all these different national systems and allowed for, unparalleled prosperity.
Got it. So it's like the plumbing. Invisible, maybe, but absolutely essential for letting global money and trade flow smoothly.
Precisely. And the source even uses a different metaphor. It says the Eurodollar system is less like a traditional currency and more like a telecommunications network.
A network, how so?
It's about managing messages, basically, transferring those ledger balances, connecting different bank ledgers across the world, efficiently moving these ledger dollars from where they are, maybe sitting in surplus somewhere, to where they're needed for trade or finance. Robert Roos has mentioned talking about how these new networks of interbank relations essentially create and manage these dollars outside the U.S. system.
Wow. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me, connecting back to those headlines. We hear constantly about foreign governments selling U.S. treasuries. Feels big, political.
Mm-hmm.
How does that fit into this picture of a hidden plumbing system? The source says it's not political, right?
Yeah, this is absolutely key, and the source argues it's where most interpretations go wrong. Selling treasuries by foreign governments, Japan's a classic example. The source notes it happened repeatedly, like in 63, 98, 2008, 2010, even 2024.
So it's not new.
Not at all, and according to this material, it's not about ditching the dollar. It's not about hating America or some kind of big statement about U.S. inflation in the way it's often framed.
So, if it's not politics, what is it then? Why sell billions in safe U.S. assets?
It's framed here as purely an operational response. It happens when there's tightness, shortages within that Eurodollar ledger system itself.
Shortages of ledger dollars.
Exactly. When the system circulation wasn't recirculating funds in a sufficient way, like during that 1998 crisis, which the source calls a dollar shortage, not really an Asian financial crisis in the usual sense.
Okay, so the plumbing gets clogged.
Kind of. And when that happens, foreign central banks or governments have to step in. They sell their most liquid U.S. assets, which are often treasuries, to get their hands on those scarce Eurodollars.
Why? What do they do with them?
They inject them back into their own banking systems or help their local companies meet dollar payments they owe internationally. It's about managing the flow, ensuring their part of the Eurodollar system doesn't seize up. It's about supporting the system's function, not abandoning it.
Okay, that flips the narrative completely. Selling treasuries isn't an attack. It's like emergency maintenance for this vital global ledger system. So let's bring it home for the listener. Why should you care about this, seemingly obscure Eurodollar thing?
Well, the source is pretty emphatic here. It says the operation of this reserve currency is one of the most important global economic topics, touching nothing that it doesn't touch in your daily life.
How so?
Because when this ledger money system isn't circulating well, when it malfunctions, and the source argues it's been doing that fundamentally since around 2007.
Since the global financial crisis.
Right. When it malfunctions, it causes real problems. It puts a drag on global trade. Our Swedish furniture company might find it harder or more expensive to sell to Japan. It forces companies, even governments, to sell assets they'd rather hold liquidation just to get needed dollars. And ultimately, the source connects it to deflationary pressures and, well, economic difficulties worldwide.
That definitely connects it to everyday life.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the system's vital, but it's also been malfunctioning for, nearly 2 decades now?
Yeah.
Can't we just, replace it, find something better?
That's a huge question, and the source tackles it. It argues ditching the Eurodollar would be hugely complicated.
Why?
Because you're not just replacing the political US dollar symbol. You'd need to build an entirely new global infrastructure, a whole new system capable of connecting pretty much the entire world with a common, trusted, intermediate ledger medium.
And that doesn't exist.
According to this source, no. There's no easy alternative ready to go. It even mentions things like blockchain as a potential future possibility, but stresses it needs an enormous amount of work and is really in the more distant future.
So the takeaway is, despite all its creaks and groans and malfunctions since '07, the Eurodollar system is still here.
I get
because it's the only thing that can actually do this essential global job right now.
That seems to be the core argument, yes. To wrap up, this source makes a really compelling case that understanding this Eurodollar ledger system is critical. It explains so much about global finance, about treasury sales, about economic trends, that the popular narratives, often based on, frankly, a misunderstanding of what a reserve currency is, just get wrong.
It definitely challenges how you view those headlines. Okay, so maybe the provocative thought for you, the listener, to chew on is this. If this Eurodollar system is so essential for everything global, but, as the source claims, it's been broken for years and probably isn't getting fixed soon, how does the world navigate a future where its financial plumbing is unreliable and there's no plumber ready with a replacement? All right, that's our deep dive for today. Hope you found that interesting. If you did, please do follow, like, and share the podcast wherever you're listening. It really helps. And of course, you can find more insights from What Bitcoin Taught Me on Twitter, X, Nuster, Bluesky, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Check us out there.